Okay, this is now tarot lesson number 183. And I have my notes here. So, okay, we're going to get to the moon in a moment. This is a horoscope, right? You may recognize it. So we've got sunrise here, sunset over there, noon up here, midday, and midnight down below. So this is the horizon. What's above here, the planets above the horizon are visible. You get credit for them. You can see what's there. The planets below the horizon are invisible. You don't get credit for it. So if I draw a circle, that's the zodiac, okay? And here we've got sunrise here and sunset over here. So what's above is visible, VIS, and this is invisible. So you can see what's there because the sun's shining on it. It's daytime. You can't see down below because it's nighttime and it's dark. So my question to you is, when does the day begin? And generally speaking, we think of the sunrise as the beginning of the day. However, a long time ago in ancient Egypt, and we have to remember the Egyptians built the pyramids, somehow they were able to do it. So maybe they knew things we don't know, or they had a deeper understanding of nature and life on Earth, a deeper understanding than we do nowadays, in spite of the fact that we've got the internet and artificial intelligence. However, for the ancient Egyptians, the day began at sunset, right? And a day went from sunset to sunset, not from sunrise to sunrise. So for the Egyptians, if the starting point is sunset, you begin in the dark. And that's why this video is called I forget what it's called. It all begins in the dark. So before you're born, you're in the womb and it's dark, right? Then you're born and it's dark. You're born in the dark. Or you begin in the dark. If you plant a seed under the soil or in the soil, then it develops roots. And then later, once it's got a strong foundation, it can emerge into the light. So you get a shoot above into the light above the horizon. So I want to say that what's below the horizon, the general idea is what's below the horizon is invisible. What's above the horizon is visible. Right? So if we take that idea and apply it to a tarot card, there's the moon. So I'm going to use this, right? So if you put the horizon into the moon card, you can see the moon itself and you can see the two towers. So maybe you've got the idea that you've got two possibilities, one tower, a second tower, and going from here to here or from here to here, somewhere between the two possibilities, you've got a moon which reflects the sun. So depending what the question is about and the moon card, you've got an idea of what's going on between the possibilities, but it's the moon. You're not sure because it's reflected light, so you can get it wrong. Whereas what's below the horizon is what you don't see. You don't see the crayfish emerging from water and having to walk on the land. You don't see the dog and the wolf, which can represent being a member of a pack or the member of a group and being seduced by the moon, because dogs bait or wolves bait the moon. So it's like they're overtaken by a primitive instinct and they're making a noise at the moon, but somehow they don't know what they're doing or they're not aware of the reality of what they're doing. Whereas, so if the moon with a horizon drawn across the moon card, you're aware of the influence, or you're aware of what you're meant to be at. You're aware of the emotional power of whatever it is you're looking at, but you're not aware of the fact that you're also meant to leave a certain area, a certain lifestyle behind and emerge onto the land and develop new skills, because the crayfish can use its paddles to maneuver around the water, but when it steps onto the land, it's got to learn to walk, and that's different. So you've got to learn new skills with the moon card, but maybe you're not aware of it in the beginning. So then I had the Hanged Man. So there's the Hanged Man. If you draw a line across the middle, what's above is the T shape and the fact that something is being suspended. So you've got hanging, and maybe the need to wait, or the need to be patient, or not being able to control what's going on because you're hanging. You're hanging by a thread, you're hanging by your ankle. And what's below the horizon? So with the Hanged Man, you're aware of the fact that you're suspended. You're not immediately aware of the fact that there's something to be said for the way you're looking at things, because down below here, under the horizon, you've got light around the head. So the individual can be illuminated, or they can have a better understanding or a different kind of understanding, because even though it looks like there's nothing going on or nothing is possible. And it can be, you can relate this card to Pisces, because Pisces is a fish, two fish. And so a fish, Pisceans will understand this, but if you're not a Piscean, you may not appreciate it. But Pisceans, if you know a Piscean who's getting depressed or who's feeling miserable, and you talk them out of it, you're not really helping them, because there's something about the nature of Pisces. They're a fish. They've got to swim to the bottom of the ocean and become, so you can look on it as being depressed, right? They've got to swim to the bottom of the ocean. When they get there, they look up to the surface. They see things from a different angle. And because they're down here looking up and seeing from a different angle, it refreshes them. Then they can come back to the surface and swim around again and be normal. So Pisceans need periods of going to the bottom of the ocean so they can get a different perspective, a different viewpoint. So if you talk them out of it, you're not really helping them. And this, I think this is how astrology and the tarot can be used together, and one can help the other. Not in a mechanical way, which is what people normally do, which is just bogus. It's just wrong. Whereas I think it is possible to take astrological information and apply it to the tarot for a better understanding. So that's that and the Hanged Man. I'll give you one more. I'm thinking of the time. So, okay. There's the Four of Batons. So we put a line across there, right? You can see with the Four of Batons, what's visible is a celebration, a recognition of something, because you've got a wreath, or you've got something connecting the two sides. And it looks like celebration, but you don't immediately see that people are waiting to welcome you. So it may be that in a reading, it's up to the reader to point out that if you do this thing, if you proceed with confidence, you'll discover that, even if you don't see them at the moment, you'll discover that people are going to support you, or they're going to be available for you, or they're going to be willing to help you, and they're waiting to welcome you because of your enterprise, because of your willingness to do something interesting and maybe do something dramatic. So that's the point about below being invisible and above being visible. But now my teaching aid, these you can see are paintbrushes. So if I'm going to paint a picture, I don't just use one brush. I could use one brush and it would be a certain type of painting, but maybe I've got a selection. So in the same way that you don't just paint a picture using one brush, you've got a variety of shapes and textures and different kinds of bristle, plastic, or not, you can get plastic, or is it some kind of animal hair? So if I'm going to paint a picture, I don't just have one brush. And in the same way, when I turn a card, I don't just think, okay, this is invisible, this is visible. So I'm not taking one single point about the card or about how to read it and applying it every time to every question. So the tarot, reading the tarot, I think, is not so much about knowing the right meaning or the right answer. It's more about looking at the picture and identifying a number of different possibilities, or identifying a number of different brushes, which you then use depending on the question and the questioner and the card itself. You use one or two, not so much meanings of the card, but one or two types of activity to explain the answer or to give an indication of what the answer is. So with that in mind, I thought I would, for instance, if you take the card that you choose for the answer can represent what is here or what is there, right? So you take one card. So what are you dealing with? What are you dealing with? You're dealing with warmth inside, but you're an outcast, or you seem to be on your own or with a companion, but you're walking barefoot through the snow. So things are awkward, they're difficult, you're dealing with limitation, you haven't got many resources or something like that. And that's what you're dealing with. So the card can try this, take a few cards. So the card itself represents, what did I write down here? How things are. But then we want to know what's the best way to deal with it. And so sometimes you're going to look at the card and say, things are limited and you haven't got much to go on. What's the best way to handle it? Maybe go inside the building where it's warm. Find comfort. Instead of persevering and getting colder and colder and worse, change your direction and look for comfort, or look within, or look for a structure that will give you support, which could be a professional group. It could be HR if you're working in a company and you're stuck and you're not getting on well with the people. So it could be, the HR department, human resources department, would represent being inside the warm building. Or maybe it's IT if you're stuck trying to do something and you can't figure out how to do it. Rather than keep doing it and getting nowhere, look for help. So sometimes if this is what's there, this can also be an indication of how to deal with it the best way. But if you can't, if that's the problem, you're stuck and you're limited and you're not sure from the card what to do about it, pick another card. And this isn't to confirm things. This is to answer what's the best way to deal with this situation of limitation. The Knight of Batons reversed. And then you figure out what the answer is. Because the knight is on a horse, there is an expression in English about being on your high horse, right? You've got ego, you've got pride, you think only you can do it. Or you think you're above everybody else and everybody else is below you. And that was the first thing that came to mind when I turned this card. Get off your high horse. Be willing to accept help with the Five of Pentacles card. In this instance, for this questioner, it doesn't mean that that's always the right thing to do, because we're thinking about this question and this card came up, and what's the best way to deal with it? You need to take yourself less seriously and get off your high horse, would be one way of looking at it. If we do another example, so let's say the question is the Temperance card. This is what's going on. This is what you're dealing with. So you need temperance. It can be alchemy, where you take lead and you turn it into gold. You take something that is maybe not that valuable and you refine it and you make it stronger and you burn off impurities and you figure out what's holding you back or what's weak or what's undermining you, and you get rid of it. You burn it off. And that way you become stronger. Because if you temper metal, you burn off the impurities to make it stronger. And so what's the best way to deal with the situation? Maybe you can tell from the card itself, but if you're not sure how the particular questioner, the best way for them right now to deal with burning off impurities is, and you pick a card and you get the two batons reversed. So we've got the two batons with somebody standing on a high tower, holding the world in his hand, looking into the distance. So what do? How do you burn off impurities? Come down off your high tower. And so instead of thinking that you're on your own and isolated and it's taking you to a high overlooking position, it isn't. You need to come back to earth. Or if you come back to earth and be less egotistical maybe, or less thinking that only you can do it, only you can solve the problem. That's how maybe one of the impurities you're meant to get rid of is your idea that you are the best, that only you can fix it. And so the solution to get rid of that impurity is to look to other people or ask them for their opinion or ask them how they would go about doing something. There is an example. So it came to mind, so I'll tell you it. So if people criticize you or tell you that you're useless or that this is a terrible piece of work, rather than fight back, it's often a good idea, and it takes the wind out of their sails to say, you're quite right. What can I do about it? So even though their opinion might be rubbish, you're not fighting them. But if somebody is really critical of you and you say, it's been on my mind, I'm not sure what to do about it. What do you think I should do? You deflate their anger or their hostility. And you open the door to maybe cooperation or to getting some useful feedback from other people that you may not have been aware of in the beginning or at this particular moment. Okay, I don't know how long that is, so I'm going to stop in a moment, but you may know about the Substack articles that I've been doing, which is on I can't remember. It's on what do I do next to become better or to improve my situation or something like that. How do I make the most of what I've got at the moment? And you pick a single card. So I've been looking at this series, and it's called For You and About You. And I uploaded an article yesterday evening. It's 007, so I'll put the link for that one down below. And the point I want to make is, this is me talking, right? So it's a dialogue, but it's spoken. Whereas what I've got in Substack is another kind of dialogue, but it's written. So there's a difference between speaking and writing. And you may be saying the same kind of thing, but how you say it is different. So I'm suggesting that if you like this kind of material in the video, go to Substack and sign up and take a look at the written version of. It's a bit like I'm doing the same kind of thing in two different ways at the same time, but they're not exactly the same. This is not like a transcript. It's more like two approaches to the same kind of topic. So I'm saying, take a look at the Substack link down below, and take a look at the most recent written one. And if you like it, you can sign up for a free subscription. It's free. It's always going to be free. You can monetize it if you want, but I'm not going to do that. It's all free. The other thing is, I'll put down below the link. So if you're if you're interested in a bit more astrological understanding, there will be a link so you can download the first 6 lessons in the Astrology in Action course. And take a look at that and see if you like the look of it. If you want it, there's more. That was it for the moment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a few days. Okay? Bye-bye.